selling with authenticity.
It's building that relationship.
About the value.
Because you want to make that impact.
It can make you happy.
Elevate others around
Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast, your home for authentic, effective, and socially integrated sales strategies to help you master the art of selling. Join your co-hosts Larry Levine and Daryl Amy, along with some of the world's best sales thought leaders and practitioners, as we explore ways to help you grow your sales.
Hello and welcome back to Selling from the Heart. Your co-host Daryl Amy here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
It's another phenomenal day in the Selling from the Heart podcast. Hey, by the way, it's great to see you.
It's great to see you as well. And for everyone listening in today, I'm glad you're here. If you're new to the Selling from the Heart podcast, you've joined a growing community of sales professionals that are dedicated to being genuine, being authentic, adding real value. We call it Selling from the Heart. And it is exciting right now, Larry. Here we are right in the middle of spring. Things are heating up, and it is fun watching the community of Selling from the Heart professionals. Just want to give a huge shout out to everybody in the Selling from the Heart Insiders group, and what an incredible encouragement and source of ideas this has been as we mastermind some of the solutions to the problems that we're all facing.
Yeah, it's just been an awesome community. I'm so proud to see the community come together. But by the way, where did winter go? We're already talking spring. I'm like,
it's amazing.
What the heck is happening?
Things are moving forward. But you know what? In order to grow to the next level, one of the books I'm reading right now is Who Not How, which is a fantastic book. And in that book, it talks about how, the how we do things is important, but the people that we surround ourselves with is even more important. And that's certainly true if you're a sales professional or sales leader that wants to take things to the next level. And so this is why I'm absolutely fired up and excited about the communities that are forming around Selling from the Heart, the Selling from the Heart Insiders group, as well as, so if you're a sales professional, you're going to love the Selling from the Heart Insiders group. But now the Selling from the Heart Sales Leaders Mastermind, a monthly gathering of sales leaders. All of this is so cool because what it's allowing us to do is bring our minds and our hearts together and be able to actually advance to the next level of not only sales success, but also satisfaction and fulfillment.
Yeah, there's that old saying, you become, who you hang out with. And I think wasn't it Jim Rohn who said you become who you hang out with.
Like the five people, closest. Right? Look it up. Yeah.
And I would say this, whether you're a sales leader or sales professional, come hang out with us, because you're going to hang out with like-hearted, like-minded people, and you are who you start to hang out with.
Yeah. So if you want to come hang out with us, just go to sellingfromtheheart.net and click on the communities link, sellingfromtheheart.net. Click on the communities link, or you can also see the link rolling across the bottom of the screen if you're watching on video. And by the way, if you're not watching on video, we're on YouTube every week. You can subscribe and see Larry's smiling face. We've got a fantastic conversation.
Well, yours as well, dude.
Well, thank you. I don't know what to say, Larry. Hey, thank you, everybody, for subscribing, liking, and commenting on the podcast on YouTube or whatever platform on which you listen. We've got a very powerful and inspirational conversation lined up today. I'm excited about our guests. So why don't you introduce our new friend and let's dive in, Larry.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this. By the way, welcome, Zach. Special shout out to my friend Zach Mofield for being the inspiration behind connecting with Zach Mathews. And, it's so nice, Daryl, to be able to bring people on, the younger generation, to kind of share their journey and inspire those that are out there in sales, because, sales requires some discipline, requires some planning, it requires some practice, and it requires a process. And we can't wait to have this conversation. Zach Mathews, welcome to Selling from the Heart.
Larry, Daryl, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
It's going to be a great conversation today. I'm really excited to dive in. But the question that every guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast answers, and that is, what does it mean to you, Zach, to sell from the heart?
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind, especially with my experience, is just assessing a person's pain points and really getting down to the nitty gritty of, how can you solve that pain point for them? I'll give you an example based on, just my background. I was in ticket sales for several years, and with the position title, ticket sales representative, ticket sales account executive, there's that can be misconstrued. The misconception there is, I sell tickets, right? But with the misconception there is that you're just selling like a piece of paper that gets someone into a professional sports game, right?
Mhm.
But when you really dial it back and you really think about it from a 300-foot view, you sell way more than just a piece of paper. You're selling the experience, you're selling the number of seats, the number of people that they can bring with them to that game. You're selling the proximity to the field. You're selling the benefits that come with being a season pass member. You're really getting down to like their why of why they even want to, attend a professional sports game, and that occurs for both B2B and just, one-on-one, like, person or salesman client, right? So like, for example, I've had clients who, they were a father looking to, reconnect with their son or build their relationship with their son. And so they wanted season passes to their son's favorite football team, or, the CEO who wants to, build a employee engagement, just kind of show appreciation for their staff, and actually, pay money for an event that they will actually attend. So, it's just little things like that, getting back to the why and really just figuring out what the pain point is, and just selling from your heart, putting yourselves in their shoes, and seeing why they would want to buy, the product or service that you sell.
Oh, Daryl, I love this. First of all, Zach, I'm a sports geek, so you've already got to my heart already. And
You want to buy some tickets, Larry?
Yeah. They're too dang expensive, but nevertheless, but I love what you said, because I'm a big, huge believer. I've said this over and over and over again, because I have some near and dear friends who are in the sports world that do sell tickets. And I'm a big believer that it's about selling memories, and it's about selling experiences.
Absolutely.
And those are just the byproduct, right? But you got to really understand and dig in. And I remember having this very first conversation with you, Zach. And one of the things, because I've done some work inside the sports world, and this might be a great conversation to just really kick this off, Daryl, is I know some of the struggles that younger salespeople have. And this, whether this be in the sports world or in any other field, is really finding their authentic voice to really, hone in and have that conversation to be able to sell those memories and experiences. Walk us through what you did as a young seller to kind of coach yourself through some of this.
Yeah. So I think it gets back to kind of what I just said. You're putting yourself in someone else's shoes. I personally, I've never been a business owner, but when you put yourself in someone else's shoes, you're able to kind of see, how the product. I mean, nobody knows the product better than you, right? So you know the benefits, how it can help other people. So when you put yourself in someone else's shoes, whether it be a CEO or whoever, then you can kind of understand what they're going through, and how your product can benefit them. I'll give you an example. So one of my biggest clients when I was with the Buccaneers, he was a dentist. He owned his own dentistry, and he was so focused on just making sure that his staff always felt appreciated. And the way that he liked to do that was just by booking as many events as he could, getting them out to as many group events as they possibly could. And so, I'm obviously not a dentist. I have no idea what he goes through on a day-to-day basis, but, by putting him in his shoes and really just kind of understanding, what his, purpose was, what was really, driving him to book that group event, or, reserve that suite for the Bucs versus Panthers game. You're able to kind of understand, the purpose behind the sale, not just, his group could, be like a $3,000 sale. How can I get him to a $3,500 sale? versus, what other benefits, what other packages can I include in this sale that's going to really help him drive that engagement, right? And keep him coming back.
I think, first of all, I absolutely love this line of conversation because I'm a firm believer that buyers don't buy products and services. They buy the outcomes those products and services deliver. And I think, along the theme of our conversation today, talking about the first decade in sales, and I think this is going to be so helpful for some reps that are listening in that are new to sales as they're thinking about their first decade. I think this is also going to be helpful for a lot of us who would look back with distant memories in the case of Larry on his first decade in sales.
By the way, I knew we've gone a little bit of time, and the minute, Zach, I'm telling you, the minute he started going there, I know this guy so well, he was going to slam me. Sorry about that. But
it's just too fun. It's too fun. But seriously though, if you think about, this first decade in sales, one of the things that I remember was I felt a level of insecurity about what to say and what to talk about, because let's face it, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's a learning curve for products and services, especially for our friends who are in highly technical industries. And you walk into a new sales job and you feel like, I don't know the product. But I think what you brought up is really, really helpful, is to realize if buyers aren't really buying the product and service, they're buying the outcome that product and service delivers. Yeah, you got to learn your product. But the most important thing is to be able to drive conversation and understand what's important to that dentist buying the tickets versus what's important to the dad buying the tickets, and to really draw that out. And to me, that offers a lot of hope and promise for younger aspiring salespeople to be able to say, okay, well, I may not be a CEO of a company, I may not be an expert in every product this company that I just got a job for offers, but I can drive a human to human conversation about what's important to you and what outcomes are you looking for. It seems like that is actually something that would be a very helpful and hopeful perspective for younger aspiring sales professionals to grab onto.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think the biggest thing that a young sales professional struggles with is that imposter syndrome. Not feeling like they're good enough, or not feeling like they know their product enough, like you just touched on. So I think the biggest thing for them is just getting behind, the why of the sale. I know I keep saying it, but that's the easiest way to navigate this whole thing is, are you able to kind of understand what drives that particular customer? And that's the same thing with B2B sales too. Like it doesn't change. So just understanding the background, where they're coming from and what their ultimate goal is going to help you sell the product, and like you said, the end result.
Yeah, I'm just curious, where did you learn this? Walk us through this. I mean, what was the epiphany? Because we just don't, it just doesn't happen in our younger days. I mean, what triggered this? Walk us through that.
Yeah, well, it was a little bit of trial and error, I'll be honest with you. I mean, you know better than anyone, after hundreds, thousands of sales calls, you just kind of start to pick up on some things. But
right.
I was really fortunate. I had great mentors along the way. So they really helped me like navigate the whole thing. And, it's so tough for young sales professionals. I mean, the misconception I think is that you have to have a passion for sales to be good at it, and I would argue that passion doesn't happen for a while. You eventually pick it up, but it's not something. There are very few that I've come across who are just passionate about cold calling someone that's 10, 20, 30 years older than them right from the get-go. It takes some time to kind of feel out what's the fulfillment in this job, and how can I take pride in my work, especially I mean, let's be honest, the teams that are looking for inside sales reps and ticket sales reps, they don't usually have the best record. So it's really hard for a young sales professional in the sports industry to take value and fulfillment for selling a tough product, if that makes sense. Then you really have to get to the why behind that, that person. And sometimes you have to explain to them why they would want to buy, tickets to a team that's less likely to win a game that they attend. But, it's just, to answer your question, just trial and error, and seeing, the value of selling it that way versus, relying on a winning record or, whatever it may be to drive the sale for you.
Well, and given that Larry's a Rams fan and I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm feeling a lot of pain right now trying to figure out how I would sell tickets to a Cowboys playoff game and all of that. So, hey, this is a really interesting line of conversation. Just looking back over a decade in sales and all of this, how did you end up getting in sales? I'm just curious.
That's a great question. So we talked about this before we started the podcast episode, but when I was a college student, I did a terrible job of building my network before I started looking for jobs. It got to that point where, I was in my last semester. I'm like, I don't have any connections to the sports world. I wanted to work in sports. I got no connections to do that. So I really just started throwing darts at the dartboard, just kind of seeing what would work, any entry level position that would give me a chance. And as fate would have it, there was, Jeff Miranda with the Arizona Coyotes. He offered me a position, an inside sales rep position, which, for those of you that don't know, that's just, that's an entry level position. It's part-time work, and it's really a prove it role. It's go in there, get your feet wet, and what you got kind of thing, And so, that's kind of how I landed the job, and got into sports sales specifically. But once I got on those phones and I sold my first flex pack, I'll never forget it. Flex pack in section 326.
Love it. I love it.
I was hooked right away, and thank God I got into that industry, because I'm a copywriter now, but I'd make the argument I'm selling more than ever. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so I'm glad you brought up, your network. And it's I'm a big believer now that networks or lack thereof will make or break you, especially in sales. And I would argue that, throughout life is share with us. So looking at this through the lens, because I want to still get into this network, is, looking at this through the lens of a young up and coming sales professional that's out there. What advice would you give them as relates to building their network? And that, and there's pros and cons to this, right? But when we start looking at this, what encouragement would you offer somebody who's young in sales on why to build their network when they might be doubting, why should I even build a network?
Sure. Well, there are two things that come to mind. The first thing is, don't be afraid to talk to decision makers. I think as a young professional or a college student, wherever you are in your career, I think the biggest misconception is that, executives don't want to talk to me because I don't have experience or I don't have enough, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I know for a fact, I've talked to directors of ticket sales. I've talked to CEOs who, they love the opportunity to talk with someone who, is in an entry level position or, aspiring to be, because, first of all, it reignites their passion. They were once in your shoes, and, throughout all the successes, the day-to-day kind of gets mundane, and they kind of figure out that they, forget for a second what, why they're in this position in the first place. Talking to a young professional kind of gives them a spark. I mean, I've had multiple directors tell me that. So that would be the first thing. Don't be afraid to reach to decision makers, the C-suite, people, people with VP in their title. I mean, LinkedIn is a great way to grow your network, no matter where you are. I mean, it's, and it gives you a chance to kind of book a face-to-face via Zoom call or, whatever it may be. I mean, it's so easy to grow your network these days. But the second part of it, advice that I would give them is just, don't overlook the entry level workers of today, the decision makers of tomorrow, really. Don't think you're above talking to the senior account executive or the account executive with your dream, franchise that you want to work for, because they're going to be a manager one day. They're going to be an executive one day too. So, growing that network now, planting seeds early on, and then, benefiting from these people that are, I mean, they're in the same boat you are. They want to build their career. They want to rise to the top as fast as you do. So, just looking at the opportunities, not necessarily the person or the position that they're in right now.
It's so excellent. Well, I love this conversation. And so far, we've talked about, the first thing is really understanding the outcomes that your buyers want. We've talked about building your network, but I know that another thing that is near and dear to your heart is self-discipline. And I know that's played a huge role in getting you to where you are today. And by the way, congratulations on the book, Climbing Your
Thank you.
Self-Discipline Tree, 3 stages essential for accomplishing any goal. Self-discipline. What'd you learn in your 20s and on your sales journey that led you to write a book about self-discipline?
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of the reasons we talked about here today, the youth of today is just kind of has this misconception about what self discipline really is. I think, especially my generation, the millennials, we have this belief that self discipline means you got a whip and like you're beating yourself senseless every day. You got to make 20 phone calls every hour, or else you're not doing you're not self disciplined enough, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I say it in the book. If that's what self discipline was, I would not be writing a book on the subject.
Mhm.
It's more about how can you envision the goals that you want to achieve personally and professionally, because those two go more hand in hand than people realize. And then establishing what those goals are via the SMART goal method. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that.
Mhm.
There are several iterations of it, but the one I mentioned in the book is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time based. I think that last one's the most important one. Um, and then once you set those goals, really organizing them and prioritizing them. And I have a couple ways to do that in the book. And then the last one, and possibly the most important for my generation specifically, is removing the distractions. I mean, there's so many distractions out there. Most of them self-inflicted. So, if you want to get where you want to be in your career and in your personal life, you got to eliminate those distractions. I mean, cell phone being the main one, and time wasting apps I talk about extensively in the book. I mean, I have a whole chapter dedicated to it. So, yeah, those are the biggest takeaways from me in self-discipline, and it's just the really cool thing about the book in general. Not to pat myself on the back, but I didn't want it to just be about my perception of self-discipline. So I actually sent a survey to 50 professionals that I knew in my network, coming back to the network again. Um, and just, kind of sent them a survey about what they thought of self-discipline, how they prioritize different aspects of it, what advice they'd have for young professionals. And so the book itself is really just a culmination of all the information they gave me.
I love this. By the way, congratulations. So proud of you.
Mhm.
You're welcome. Is when it comes to self-discipline, what is it that you learn? Right. So you sent out the surveys. What came back? What were like the aha moments when you started keying in on self-discipline and looking at this through your network?
Yeah. The biggest takeaway was the distractions, which I just talked about, decluttering your life. I mean, so many people, I'm not just talking about my generation. I'm talking about VPs, CEOs, people in decision-making roles. They all mentioned every single one of them, but one. I mentioned I got 50 surveys back. Every single one of them, but one of them mentioned that that their phone they needed to reduce time wasting apps. I mean, every single one of them. They all
Mhm.
understood specifically social media, and the role that plays in their life, and how they need to kind of declutter that. So I spent a bunch of time before I even started writing the book just on how I could, what exercises I could use. I kind of use myself as a guinea pig for eliminating some really, really toxic apps in general, not just people, not just, video, not just games on the phone, but I'm talking about like apps that were, as soon as I heard the ding, that's where my face automatically goes to the phone. So it was a lot of trial and error there, and I hope those exercises kind of help people.
I absolutely love it. I think this is so critical when it comes to being successful is that discipline to stay focused. I'm just curious as you wrap this conversation up, and this has been really, really helpful. Um, if you were to look back and give some advice to your early 20s self that landed in that first sales job, based on what you've discovered since then, what would you say? I know you spoke to a college class about this earlier today, so I'm really kind of fishing for what did you tell the college students about getting into sales and what they should what they could be thinking about that you wish someone had told you?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned, I really wish I mentioned it earlier in the episode, just the power of the network. I keep coming back to it, but if I had just
Mhm.
had one good connection, I mean, I there was something that I shared in that presentation, which was 80% of jobs are filled through a personal connection, and
Mhm.
that doesn't mean you have to be best friends with the guy or the gal that is hiring. That just means you've taken the time to connect with them and build a good enough relationship where they're like, hey, I think Zach would be the perfect fit for this position. And then the more shocking statistic that I found was that 70% of those positions don't have never been posted. They don't exist prior to that person filling the role. Um, so, to answer your question, Daryl, I wish I would have just, made some time to build connection, whether that was, using LinkedIn. I mean, just understanding how easy it is to do that. I thought it was difficult. I thought that was something I would have to do once I got the job. And
Mhm.
now I
Mhm.
wish I would have been doing that before I got the job because it would have been how I got the job. But luckily, I mentioned Jeff Miranda before. Luckily, he took a chance on me and it all worked out. But, not everybody gets that opportunity. So, start building your network down. That's what I would have told myself.
I would say amen to that. It
That's
just,
right.
yeah, I'm going to slam myself on this one. I'm just, when I started my career, the internet wasn't even around and computers weren't even around. But I fully support what you said. We just had to do, back in the days, we just had to do it differently. We were still building networks, but they weren't networks of today, where we're leveraging social. Hats off to you, because I would say, just to layer on top of this, Daryl, is I would just say find coaches and mentors along the way.
Mhm.
Same thing to what you were saying, Zach, about building networks and all that. But if I could just offer advice just to some of the younger salespeople that are out there, find mentors, find coaches, and double down on that, and double down on your networks.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's another thing about self-discipline is, I have an accountability chapter. That's the last chapter of the book. And, it just talks about, you know, I give an example of the Inklings. If you ever heard of that group, C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien were in that group.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a little group that met at a pub in England every Monday night, I think it was. Um, I mean, that's where the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and the Chronicles of Narnia, all those books came from that group. They would meet every Monday night at the local pub and just share new chapters, new side stories, new frameworks of the book.
Mhm.
They'd get the voice of 9 other men, um, who shared their same interests and their same morals in life. Um, to just get feedback, and then they come back the next week and do it all over again. So just the power of accountability and the mentorship, like you said, it just provides a different perspective.
I
Oh, this is
love
so
it.
good. So good.
Wow. Wow. Zach, thank you so much for sharing your heart with us today. You're a true inspiration. Tell us how we can get this amazing book, Climbing Your Self-Discipline Tree, the 3 stages essential for accomplishing any goal.
Yeah, so it's available in ebook and paperback version right now on Amazon.
Sweet.
So the easy way to do that is, you can either go to my website, zachmatthewswriting.com, Matthews with 1 T, and then, or you can just go to Amazon and type in "Climbing Your Self-Discipline Tree." That should make it, should be the first one to pop up, hopefully.
It absolutely is. I'm there right now. And Zach, I just want to say a huge thank you. Congratulations on the book. And man, you're a true inspiration. I really appreciate you investing in all of us today.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Larry,
Daryl.
climbing your self-discipline tree. That was a great conversation.
Oh yeah. Here's what's funny, and too bad we just didn't have enough time to peel this one back. Is, yeah, go tell a millennial to remove apps off their mobile device and so forth. Hilarious. I mean, but you know, that requires some self-discipline.
Tell any of us. Come
Tell
on,
any
man.
of us.
Tell any of us. But this discussion was so powerful, talking about focusing on outcomes, building your network, developing self-discipline. And the last part was accountability. Very, very practical, not just for our friends that are newer in their sales career, but really applicable for every single one of us. And I think this has been a very encouraging conversation today. And I'd be remiss if saying, just kind of springboarding off that accountability side of it. This is critical that you're a part of a group of like-hearted people, just like the Inkling group that gathered together. That you've got a group of people and you've got a coach. And if you don't have a group of people, we'd welcome you to come find a group of like-hearted people in the Selling from the Heart Insiders group. If you don't have a coach, what great performing athlete or professional does it without a coach? I mean, it's just, going back to that sports analogy and all of it. If I were to do my 20s over again, I would have a coach. And so if you don't have a coach, wherever you are in your sales career, I highly encourage you to get one. Once again, if you're looking for a coach, we'd love to talk with you. We've got an incredible team of Selling from the Heart certified coaches that are helping people define, develop, and actually do authentic sales success, hitting their sales goals and doing it in a way that drives fulfillment. Larry, what a pleasure. What a fun journey this is. What an incredible honor to be able to hang out with this growing community of like-hearted sales professionals driving a movement of authenticity in the sales profession. Just wow.
I'm honored. It's a blessing. It's so great to see the community come together around like-minded conversations. It's been, sometimes I get speechless seeing this all build out, but you know what? That's what we're here for. We're here to drive the message around Selling from the Heart, Daryl.
Absolutely. And this is a movement of authenticity in the sales profession, which means you're a part of it. If you're listening, you're a part of it. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting on this podcast. It does help us spread the word as we are doing something which we all believe is really important, which is bringing authenticity to the sales profession we all know and love. So right now, we've got an exciting spring ahead. The roster of folks coming on the Selling from the Heart podcast is super exciting. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And until next week, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep adding real value, climb your self-discipline tree, and most of all,